Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about the good news coming out of Afghanistan, and I know the press is all over this because they're so eager to report all of the bad things in an ongoing war, and so that's why the coverage is practically nonstop about how badly things are going in Afghanistan. First of all, there are thousands of people that are fleeing Afghanistan and going over to Pakistan. All the people that were living in Pakistan until we took over and, there was a chance that the Taliban would be out, they moved back into Afghanistan. They're now moving back out of Afghanistan. But the real people I want to talk about are the people that helped us, the translators, the people who believed that we would be there for them. Yeah, we haven't really made a plan for them, There's about 10,000 of these people, and they helped us for years and years and years. But, should we have a plan to help them, Stu?
Why plan when you can just do it on the fly as the Taliban is just taking district after district? It's like one of those shows where they redo the home, like a home renovation show, and every episode's like, oh my gosh, they're around the corner. Should we put up these last curtains? You know what I mean? And it's like it's always a close call. And like, why didn't you just tell them to stay out of there for another extra hour? There's no real reason for the drama here.
Right.
That's kind of what's happening in Afghanistan right now.
Except it's not made for TV.
No,
this is just
it's real.
Yeah, the people who are saying that are the people who helped us. They're like, oh my gosh, the Taliban's right around the corner. Help!
Yeah, they're saying now 330,000 Afghans have been displaced already, many of them leaving the country once again, realizing that this is just going to happen again, and that's terrible enough. In addition, though, the people who actually helped us during the battle, translators and all sorts of different types of people who've helped the U.S. military, you're going to be stunned to hear this. If the Taliban gets control, they're all going to be murdered. They're just going to be murdered because they shouldn't have been helping, in the Taliban's view, the American effort. So we have so there's a group of, they think, about 20,000 people who are in this category. And we have a couple thousand that we've actually been able to help and get out of the country. Some of them have come to the United States. People, the most reliably vetted of those have come. So some of this has happened. They think some of the 20,000 maybe shouldn't qualify for this program, a special immigrant visa type of situation where they can be moved not only either to the United States or to a third country where we have maybe a base or something. But again, get them out of the way of the Taliban and the knives they're swinging. And so they are now moving some of them to third countries and various places where they can try to do this. But there does not seem to be a plan for, as you point out, about 10,000 of these guys that are likely to get killed the second.
We used them,
That does seem to be the philosophy.
I think it is.
Of the United States in way too many cases.
Let me tell you a story about a guy named Raoul Wallenberg. I've talked about him before, and he is one of my favorite 20th century heroes. And most people don't know who Raoul Wallenberg is. A lady who wrote a book on Raoul Wallenberg over in Sweden, and it's like what's his name's Bonhoeffer book. It is the book.
Yeah.
On Raoul Wallenberg, and she came over, and she had been doing interviews here in the United States. She did a Good Morning America and everything else. She came to do an interview with me, and she almost welled up halfway through the interview. And she said, I cannot believe it. You're the only American, at least as a broadcaster, that I have talked to that even knows who he is. And I'm like, he's a hero of mine. He's an absolute hero.
So he would go on. She'd go on and do the interviews on,
and they had no idea who
Good
this
Morning
guy
America.
was.
They have no idea.
This is an American hero in many ways that we abandoned, just like we did with the Taliban. Right now, we're not changing our spots. If Americans knew about this, we would say, let's get those who helped us to safety. But we're getting the blame for it because of our weasels in the government. So let me tell you about Raoul Wallenberg. It's 1940s, and he's in Sweden. He is the heir to a large fortune, and they are very high up on the ladder. Remember, the Nazis are involved in Sweden, and so everybody's kind of nervous. The United States comes to Raoul Wallenberg off the, through the OSS and says, "Hey, we need you to go over to I think it was Prague, and just watch what the Nazis are doing. We understand that they are rounding up Jews, and we need to know if that's true." He says, I don't know. And they said, just ask the king if you can be appointed to the embassy, and then just spy for us. He said, okay. Well, he got over there, and he saw that not only was it true, that it was in enormous numbers, that every Jew was being rounded up. He couldn't abide by it. He would write letters to us. He'd write letters to the king, and the king was like, "I can't do anything. The Nazis are right here." And so Raoul Wallenberg decided he was going to do something, and he started issuing what's called a Schutzpass. My wife gave one to me for Christmas years ago, and she said she took it back. She gave me the present, and then she took it back right away, and she said, "I'll give it to you tomorrow." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because you're going to spend all day crying." And I said, "I'm not. It's Christmas. Everything's fine." And she said, "Oh, I know you. You're going to cry." And I'm like, "I'm not going to cry." I opened it. I cried all day. It is such a remarkable piece of paper, a monument to what one man can do. He would issue these Schutzpasses, which means that whoever gets this paper, and their name is filled out on it, you get that paper, you are now under the protection of the King of Sweden. And so Raoul Wallenberg was claiming people as his. So if you were stopped for papers, you didn't have to wear a yellow star anymore because you were now under the protection of the King of Sweden. Well, the King of Sweden was getting all kinds of heat for this. And I mean, he issued thousands of them. He would type them all up, and then he would go to the trains that were going to the death camps, and he would stuff them in between the slats of the train. And then he would stand on top of the train next to the coal car, and he'd say, "Stop! You have the wrong people. These are my people." And the train would unload, and they would check the papers, and anyone who had a Schutzpass was free. He saved thousands of people. Towards the end of the war, the Russians were coming in, and some of his people at the embassy said, "Raoul, you got to go. You got to go right now." Now we know now in history, Stalin hated this guy, knew what he was doing, and hated him. And Raoul said, "No, there's too many more I can save." He was last seen running to the Russian troops, the first brigade that came in, and that's the last we ever saw of him. I have a cigarette case from one of the guys in that garrison that came in that he was running to, and it's really quite worthless unless you know that those are the soldiers that he ran to, saying they can't be as bad as the Germans, because in Russian on the front of the case it says, "Let's kill all the Jews and go home." He was taken, there's a few endings to this story. He was taken and shot and executed there immediately. Unlikely, because Stalin is said to have wanted to talk to him. So the next version of the ending of his life was that he was interrogated and by Stalin and his people, and he died in a concentration camp in like 1948. I think the worst outcome is that he went to a hard labor camp in the Soviet Union and died in 1972. Here's the reason why I tell you this story. Here's a guy we asked to help. Here's a guy that every single one of us should know his name. His name is Raoul Wallenberg. He's a hero in Sweden. There are statues to him in Sweden. There should be statues of him here because we asked him to do it. And then at the end of the war, when we had clout with Stalin, we didn't even ask where he was. We didn't ask to exchange. We did nothing to save his life. No matter how many times the Swedes and everybody else asked the United States, will you please ask them? We never asked about him until 1976. We're doing the same thing. And it is not the people of the United States. It's an out-of-control large government that doesn't always put the same priorities on things that we might. We're doing it again now in Afghanistan. 10,000 people that helped us. They are now living in fear and in hiding because the Taliban will take over. And we knew this. You and I, we all knew that the Taliban would come back. That's why we should have gone in, killed Osama bin Laden, and left. Instead, we spent 20 years and how much treasure and how much American blood in that place. And what we all knew would happen has happened. The bad guys just waited us out. We cannot build countries. We cannot pass on freedom. Hell, we don't even want it ourselves, it seems. People have to want it. And they have to be willing to stand up for it themselves. This group of people did. And we are letting them die.